Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see some folks in the audience, and we have Brendan from the board online with us tonight. We'll start off with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the October 18th meeting minutes. Motion made by Mark.
Second.
Seconded by Alicia. Is there any comment on the minutes? Not seeing any. All those who are in favor, please indicate so by raising your hand. Any abstentions? One abstention. Any no votes? Okay. Thank you very much. Now we're on to public comment. Is there anybody who would like to speak during public comment? I don't see any. Okay. Just the board chair's report. This will be our last meeting before the November 7th elections. I encourage everybody in town to go out who's a registered voter to go out and vote. And if you aren't a registered voter, you can go to town hall on election day and register and vote right then and there. So at our next meeting, we will have potentially a slightly different makeup to our board, and we will definitely have a full board, which we haven't had in quite a while. So we'll go back to 9 members, which will be great. So that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you. And we're going to go on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. First item on my report is just the biweekly vacancy report. It hasn't changed a whole lot since your last check-in. I don't know if there's any specific questions about where we are vacancy-wise. And I have our director of HR here if there's any really specific questions.
Mary?
Yeah, so what are we doing in the classrooms where there are not teachers?
So that there are probably long-term subs in those classrooms. Those, we just leave the vacancies open in the event a certified teacher wants to come work for us. They know that there's a posting they can apply to.
So I want to commend the district and particularly HR for doing as well as we are doing at keeping as many positions filled as we possibly can. And I know it's a challenge across the nation. So thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Next is our biweekly attendance and discipline report.
Lynn, just a quick
sorry.
question before we move.
Sorry, Mark.
My question is about we changed substitute companies, did we not?
Well, we're about to bring on another sub-company. Do you want to give them a quick little update?
We'll just wait till Grace gets up to the mic. I think we talked about that at previous
Yeah, we've been
meeting.
trying to figure out how to increase the number of subs that are available to the
I remember
district.
we were going to change. I just wanted to, because that'll obviously affect the vacancies.
Yes, we're actually currently right now working with the other company. They've asked us for a couple of questions on our needs and what we're looking for, and they're putting a proposal together for us. So as soon as we have that proposal, we're going to sit down and take a look at it and hopefully be able to move forward with it.
So for now, we're still working with the original company?
Yes, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm sorry I missed your hand, Mark.
Thanks.
No, you aren't. Okay, so now we're on to attendance and discipline.
Okay, so this is our biweekly check-in on attendance and discipline. In terms of attendance, 6 of our 8 schools have increased their daily attendance rates when compared to the same time frame last year, so that's good news. We're actually doing fairly well on our chronic absenteeism rate, which isn't in this report, but I'm just adding that Right now, we're seeing some positive trends. We're going to actually give you an update on that when we check in on the accountability index, probably next board meeting. In terms of discipline, you'll see that we're in decent shape in all places except for potentially when the middle school. I have met one-on-one with the principal, and he has met with the entire leadership team. They really are trying to utilize out-of-school suspensions for only really severe behaviors, including any kind of physical aggression. So the majority of the out-of-school suspensions you see there are related to students being physical with one another, which is something they're trying to completely extinguish in the building. I don't know if there's any specific questions, but I'm obviously following up with the principal on a regular basis every time we check in on the data.
Mary?
Well, I mean, according to board policies, there are very specific reasons for out-of-school suspension, and so we
Correct, severe
cannot
disruption
not-
to the environment.
Yeah, so we can't not follow that. But it is concerning. There was an article in the paper the other day, the Hartford Courant, about how there's a graduation gap among boys and girls, and one of the concerns is boys being given out-of-school suspensions, or having that event, whatever leads to it, and that this has a knock-on effect. So I do think there needs to be, the behavioral things need to be addressed, climate needs to be addressed, and we really have to get those numbers down.
I do not disagree. In fact, I completely agree and have talked at length with the principal and the leadership team. They are working really hard on promoting a positive school climate. They have a variety of after-school clubs and things they're offering during the day to motivate students to want to make good decisions and be in school. They have increased supervision in common areas like the cafeteria. During transitions, they are really vigilant about arrival and dismissal times and trying to keep things safe and calm. They hold re-entry meetings with every student that's suspended out of school. So they're trying to engage the parents and make sure that they're not having a reoccurrence of whatever the incident was. They are fully utilizing their support staff, which includes social workers, counselors, school psychologists, the administrators themselves. They are trying to make proactive calls to recognize positive behaviors and also to identify minor behaviors in hopes that they won't become more severe. They hold a monthly assembly to sort of establish the expectations for behavior, and they're trying to continually motivate students to make good decisions. Having been a principal before in 2 other places, you have to follow through on the things you tell the kids you're going to do. And if fighting is something you want to eliminate from your schools, you have to have a strong stance on what you do in response to that. So we're walking this fine line, because if you don't follow through, then they know they're free to do whatever it is they set out to do. And that also makes the students who are not making bad decisions feel unsafe. So I really do think the middle school is in a good place now. I want to see this data decrease, and they know that, and they want to see the data decrease. So we're working on it from every angle possible, and I'll continue to keep the board updated and continue to check in with the principal when it doesn't look like the data is moving in the right direction.
Any other, Katina and then Paula?
Go ahead, Paula. I was going to say that a couple of meetings ago, we were all invited also to participate in the second National School Safety webinars, which happened today one and tomorrow the next one. And precisely, they were talking about ways of intervention and promoting positive behavior. And I know that I, as a community member, attended and as a board member, but I'm sure that the safety community, the safety team of the school will bring those suggestions to the schools and to the board.
Yes, thank you, Katina. Today was the first of the 2-part series, the National Forum for School Safety and Security. So we had a small team from our district safety committee attend. We invited you all at the board retreat. And it's happening again tomorrow if you're available between 12 and 3. It's a virtual summit, but you can log in if you choose. We can get you the link. But we are going to have the team that attended the event present back, not only to the full safety committee, but if the board would like information, we're happy to do that as well.
Thank you. Thank you for attending that, Katina. And Paula?
As you're going to hear a little later in the presentation about the school-based health center, it was really interesting to hear the social workers talking about how much they are providing interventions and classes and meetings with individual students and groups of students. It sounds like it's extremely active, and now they've improved their people at every school. So that sounded very, very helpful and reassuring with all the things that we've talked about.
I haven't actually proven this, but I believe it to be true. I think we have one of the largest numbers of social workers available to us of any regional school that I'm aware of. We have a huge team. I want to say 19 or 20 social workers total. That's a huge number for a district our size.
And very enthusiastic.
And well used and well needed and much appreciated. So thank you. Anything else on this topic? Okay. Go right ahead. You can keep moving through.
Oh, I don't know, Bob Hawley. We're back in green. Next up, we were going to give you the two examples of the logos that the Wyndham Phoenix Academy had chosen, but when I spoke to the principal of the core of Wyndham's Phoenix Academy, I have to get used to saying this, he said the students were so overwhelmingly positive about this particular logo. We are going with this logo, so we would like the board tonight to vote on their new logo. Apparently, it's a big hit with the students who are in attendance and the staff there as well. So,
The board may remember that I am now the ambassador from the board to the Phoenix Academy, and I was there last week, and the kids are very enthusiastic about this.
yeah, big excitement. All right, I'm going to skip down to letter E in my report, and that is that Representative Jeff Curry. He is the Connecticut House Chair of Education. He is coming to visit Wyndham Public Schools along with Susan Johnson on December 13th, so board members are invited along. We haven't put together the formal agenda just yet, but we know he's arriving to us in the morning. He'll visit some schools with us and then come back to central office for lunch. So right now, that's the tentative plan, and that's December 13th, and you're all invited.
Do you have the time?
I think he's arriving at 9:30.
No, this is really important because he is the co-chair of the legislature's education committee, and the fact that he's decided to go around the state and tour some of the districts, I think it's important that we get on the map, because as we all know, Eastern Connecticut often gets left out of things when they're talking about investing resources, even though we are a district that gets significant resources from the state. It's always good to put forward what we're doing here that is so special. And because of the types of some of the programs we have in our district, which many other districts don't have, I think it's really important that several of us board members, if we can, show up, because it's an important public relations thing for us with the state legislature. And he is from East Hartford, so he does, understand some of the demographics and some of the challenges that districts like ours have.
I miss where the person will arrive at 9, a central office.
He's arriving in Wyndham at 9:30. We haven't built the actual agenda.
Okay.
On Friday, I meet with the leadership team. I want him to see some powerful things happening in Wyndham, so I need to speak to my leaders about what they might be able to have our kids showcase for when he's here, and then we'll build the agenda around that. But I would say like 9:30 to probably 1 o'clock or something like that is the time frame.
Thank you.
And last but not least, the board is aware that Hispanic Heritage Month runs from September 15th to October 15th. All of our schools took part in some form of celebrating this month, and I want to thank the board members who were able to attend some of those really exciting events. And I wanted to, okay, go ahead, you can clap. I wanted to show you a video that comes from Natchog School, and I see I have two Natchog School, including Dr. Rivera, who's responsible for these amazing videos. I think the video sort of sums up the celebratory feel of Hispanic Heritage Month. It's a Natchog-specific video, but all of our schools had some form of celebration going on. So if you want to spin around and watch this really fun video. Thank you, Dr. Rivera.
Well, that was terrific. Is that available to us?
Yes, we can certainly send a
Yeah,
link.
I'd love to have it. I'd love to show it off to my friends and people around.
Thank you, Dr. Rivera. And
Paula, did you want to say something?
I was able to attend. I was grateful for the invitation. What you don't see there that brought tears to my eyes was that all of the classes were out on the pavement. Alicia's husband's band played the music, which was wonderful. But the very last event was all of the children singing the same song, totally engaged, doing all the same moves. The enthusiasm was just amazing. I mean, that was beautiful. It really was.
And Dr. Rivera, one of the things that they might not be able to see in the video is that the music department has been supporting each other all over the district. So the team from Natchog shows up at Sweeney, and the team from Sweeney shows up at North Wyndham, and it's a big collaborative effort
Ugh,
to bring
it was
music and
something.
dance to our students. It's really neat.
It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Well, that was a great way to finish your report. Thank you, thank you. So now we're on to the discussion items on the agenda, and we're lucky to have some members from Wyndham Town Hall here with us today. You may want to introduce yourselves up at the mic, and so people know who you are. We ask you to use the mic so the people who are watching can hear what you have to say. And
If you hit the button, it should stay green, and then you know you're on.
Hi, thank you very much for having us. We're grateful to be here and share a little bit of what we've been working on.
you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Brian Tarbell, Town Engineer for Wyndham.
And I am Matt Vertife. I am planner and CEO for the town. Also a resident of town, and my kids go to school here, and I graduated from Wyndham High School.
So for people who have been following this issue, they know that the board has been deliberating on the options for a site to construct one unified elementary school for the district. And we had been considering the Sweeney site as a possible site with the goal of trying to keep the school inside the Willimantic area of town, not the least of which, well, location and where many families are that would benefit from having a school where they can easily get, but also the issue of being connected to sewer and water, which is a big challenge if you build outside of the district. So we asked, I'll hand this to you, Tracy,
Sure.
to introduce.
So at the board retreat on October 7th, the board came up with a list of questions that we really wanted to get the answers to about whether or not the Sweeney site was a viable location for the new construction. So I basically took those questions and forwarded them to Matt and Brian, and they put their heads together to come up with what we're going to discuss tonight.
So Brian and I took a long look at the questions and then entered into a conversation about how to approach the questions. And we really wanted to take a step back and take a strong look at not just the school and the site, but to look at what the needs with the school would be, and then, you know, try to figure out whether or not it really fits there. The reason we involved Brian is there's a lot of engineering stuff, and there were some questions on ledge and things in that. We looked at old plans from when this school was built. We looked at aerial photographs. We have aerial photographs of the area long before, when there was a field out back. And then pulled all the other town records we could to kind of come to some conclusions on it. So how would you use a school for 900 kids, and how would you build it? So we looked at, one of the important factors was the ratio of kids to cars. And that's going to be the big deciding factor there, because the site is tight. So you'd essentially be tripling the amount of cars that are parked on the site on a daily basis, and then tripling the amount of cars that visit the site on a daily basis. So we started playing around with how that works with the site, and you can look at the screen. One of the assumptions we came up with really quickly was you have to separate bus traffic from the students, and the drop-off from the bus area, and then parking for staff, parking for visitors on the site, so that you're not crossing students walking to school or being dropped off, or you're delaying buses from unloading or loading by having parents dropping off. So try to separate those uses. And then also separating loading dock or loading or truck traffic into a separate area. The red outline you see is an approximate footprint of about what you could fit on that site. Now, when you compare that to sites like Barrows Academy, which has just over 600 students in it, it's a little bit smaller than their footprint, but their school is only a story and a half, so this would be 2 full stories. So it would be approximately that big. It might have to be a little bit bigger to fit the school in. Now, we played around with that footprint on different areas of the site. So we played around with, what if we got rid of the baseball fields and put the school there, so you could build a new school in that site and then knock down Sweeney School after the kids are in the new school and build new ball fields down below. It added a lot of cost, and it added a lot of timing issues and things like that, and it just didn't help with things like traffic. The only way that we've concluded to park enough vehicles there would be to build a parking garage. Now, with the way that the site is currently, the topography, you could build a parking garage into the ground and only having it sticking out of the ground the same height as the building, which would work physically, and it would work for zoning. The box that you see there, that represents a garage about the same size as the garage that we just built on Walnut Street in downtown, which is about the same number of cars that we would have to park. Just to give you some perspective of, how that would fit in. With doing that, adding or keeping the bus area out in front of the school and keeping that road and drop-off area for buses as long as possible, so you can line up as many buses as possible, and still having a loading area, the last thing is you need that drop-off area. So the drop-off area we show there is a loop. Now, that loop, it looks tight in the picture. I assure you that you can put in a radius in there that is greater than the radius at Barrows Academy, the loop turnaround they have on, which is tight. That's about an 85-foot radius. There's over 100 feet of distance there to fit this kind of a loop. But you would have to acquire a house, maybe 2 houses, and bring in an entrance off of Mansfield Avenue. One of the reasons we looked at doing that was Mansfield Avenue being a feeder street, so it's a more of a main road, handles a lot more traffic than Oak Hill Drive does. So you're keeping all of the drop-off and some of the employees coming to the site coming off of Mansfield Avenue. You could also have an entrance to the parking garage off of Oak Hill Drive from the existing exit of that parking lot on the bottom, and you'd park inside the bottom of the garage. So you'd only have school buses coming down Oak Hill Drive, which would simplify things as far as traffic goes. And it would alleviate some of the issues that you would have on Quarry Street, which is already congested from this school. The problem with this plan is a couple strong things.
I would say the problems. When you say it's more than one, right?
Problem. I still don't think the footprint is big enough that we show on here. I think it will wind up having to be bigger for the 900 kids.
Yeah, to me, the lack of space for them to play, when you showed it to me, I just thought, it's not what I imagined would be the space for a school that size, kindergarten through 4th graders that need to be able to play.
So currently you have 2 different play areas there. We held those as sacred on there, but you're tripling the number of children playing on those sites. So putting 900 kids on 2 areas, even if you played around with the footprint of the building to keep all the play area in one area, we thought of creative ways you could do some field sharing or different levels of playgrounds and things. It adds to the complexity, and again, it adds to the cost of construction. So to fit everything on here, you're losing the playground, which is absolutely essential. I also feel that with 900 kids, you're going to have to learn to stagger those kids on the playground. Obviously, you can't have 900 kids on the playground at one time. That would be a management nightmare. So you're going to have multiple playgrounds or multiple areas for kids to play and then schedule those. In addition to that problem, parking garage, which is the only way to escape paving the entire site, which we can't do. We're already past our maximum of impervious surface for the site. So this keeps us roughly to the same impervious surface. It'll be greater then, but it'll keep us a lot closer to it. Parking garage downtown Willimantic just cost us $12 million to build. So it adds a substantial number to the construction of the school. I understand, we're bonding this money, and I know there's reimbursement and everything, but it's still a big nut. And I think that the taxpayers, we owe it to the taxpayers to give them the best product for the kids and for their dollar. So overall, that's what we found. I think that answers all of the questions that you had sent us.
It does, and I don't know whether Brian wants to add anything, but I just have to say, based on our discussions at the board level and the concerns that people had about the site already, this just compounds it by multiple levels. And we also have the addition of taking property, which could be a tough issue. So from my perspective, this puts us back to taking another look at the sites that we looked at with you in April, Matt. And I don't think, for the purposes of discussion tonight, we should name those sites, because if the town decides it has to go negotiate with the owners of those sites, we don't want to make matters more difficult for us to acquire a new site. So, I mean, I don't know whether other people on the board have things to say about this. I think it's a discussion item, so we can open it up for discussion. Yeah, go ahead, Katina.
So you mentioned that you guys thought about moving the school to where the other fields were and, back and forth. Is that also untenable?
Yeah, I'll give you some rest. It's possible. Excuse me. It's possible, but I think, you would be cutting a lot of material out, and I think in Wyndham in general, we're really looking for more space and more recreational places, more fields, more soccer, more baseball, softball. So I think we would lose that to the building. And to put this into perspective, the 2 play areas that you see there now that's about a little bit less space than what they have now. So to really conceptualize it, you're adding 3 times as many kids, and you're keeping the same play space. So that is hard to overcome. Again, the levels, having different tiered playgrounds or, cutting into that slope, it really just adds to the engineering and design and architectural cost to this project. So that's where we, wanted to get your input.
Also, we've noticed that those fields are greatly used by the middle school kids. In fact, the softball field currently has a nets put on it for soccer because the girls' soccer team practices down there. So they're used all the seasons, and they're used used for multiple purposes. So to move them further away from the middle school just didn't make sense.
Any other comments, questions from board members? Ilda, sorry.
Hello. I just wanted to say that I think it sounds like we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. Pretty much.
Anybody else? Brendan, I know you're the chair of school planning and design. I would think you might want to ask a question or make a few comments. So, anybody else? So, okay, you had something else you wanted to say, Matt?
I just wanted to add that Brian and I, we did spend some time looking at other sites, and we feel that there is some viable sites in town.
So we'll have to arrange with you to maybe go on another walkthrough to review some of the sites.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll work with Tracy on, arranging whatever
Scheduling
we have to do,
something.
whether it's a meeting or another site visit, to talk about that. But I feel pretty confident that we can find a site that's got water and sewer. We demonstrated, at least with one site that has water, sewer, gas, that it also is a big enough footprint to contain the entire Barrows Academy property on it and be buildable. So there is sites in town.
Okay.
There were sites in both.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have, oh, Brendan?
Are those sites in addition to the ones we looked at this past spring, or is it using the same ones, or a mixture of both?
It's a mixture of both, but it's a relook at a couple of the stronger of candidates in there.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you both coming this evening. This is a really big thing we want to move forward on, and site is a big issue for us. So thank you for your work with us. We appreciate it.
No problem. And anything we can do to help.
Thank you both a lot.
So we'll have to go back to School Planning and Design Committee and have some conversations and then figure out with Tracy and Matt and Brian how we move forward. Does that make sense, Brendan?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thanks. That was, last time we looked at sites, it was pouring rain and cold.
But it was so much fun
but-
having a van packed with board members.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the Wyndham Pride Survey, and we've been going back and forth on this since the presentation. And Tracy, you want to fill us in on where things are?
Sure. So one of the things we were trying to determine is if the board indeed has to vote on the Wyndham Pride Survey. And what we learned from the folks who are administering the survey is about half the districts they work in do not vote. Their board does not vote to give the survey in their district, which means it's not required. So it's really up to the board whether or not you feel strongly about voting for it. Again, there's an opt-out, opportunity for students to opt out. It's not something that's mandated. So it's up to the board if you want to go ahead and vote on it, or if you just want us to move forward without an official vote.
I would just add, the research that we did, the other districts that didn't say the board had to vote, sort of authorized the superintendent to work with Wyndham Pride to, make sure the survey was finalized. And that does not, the final survey was good to go and things. That's one option. The other option is for us to still weigh in on the survey and say to the superintendent, work it out, the details with Wyndham Pride about actually administering the survey. They're working on some updates to the survey, so what we were shown is not of what it would necessarily look like if they put it out into the field in 2024. So the other question I have for the board is, how do you want to deal with this? Do you want to approve it? Do you want to give authority to the superintendent? Do you want to see the survey when it's in its next iteration? We don't have to take action on anything tonight. It's just open for discussion. Anybody have any thoughts on this? I see Paula.
I think it would be helpful to see it when they have a finished product, in case there are any other concerns. And I think it sounded like one of the concerns that came up last time was the opting out and making sure that there are, viable ways of getting to parents or explaining to kids, but I think mostly to parents, to make sure that everybody is aware.
Katina, and then
I think that the superintendent can work and should work with the agency to look at the details as a board member, and I would like to see it also and have like a presentation, but not vote on it. I don't need to vote on it.
Mary, what do you mean, before I go to Mary, what do you mean by presentation? I don't want to have a presentation where we go through each question by question.
No,
Like,
I
what
meant
do you mean?
like the summary of it,
Okay.
and when after it's done, and
And we can still see it in
Yeah,
writing,
and
but we
of
don't want a
course.
presentation
that's
on
what I
every
meant to say.
last word.
That I didn't say. Thank you for
Okay,
clarifying
I just
for
want to
me.
clarify. Okay, Mary?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure we voted on the one that was given in 2022, but, I do want to say I have concerns. This is a use of gathering information from children as young as 11 or 12, and they really, the sort of benefits of this to me are not evident in the sense of many of the things we need to do anyway, such as suicide prevention, such as drug education. I also never got the parental information about it. So even though they say it's given to all the parents, there are problems with that. Also, just reading their proctor script, for example, it says this survey is sponsored, blah, blah. This survey is being given to all 6th through 12th grade students. I mean, they need to remove that, because if people are opting out, for example, to me that there's a sort of not a scientific justification for giving this, and also the people doing it are not scientists who are looking to see the effects on human subjects. A UConn student could not give this survey because they need to get permission whenever they do anything that uses human subjects. And I also want to say that some of the questions that I have brought this up before many years, I think it was in 2021 maybe, or that an 11-year-old is very different from an 18-year-old, and there's no sense of changing the questions. And there are also questions that are sort of report on your parents. Percentage of lifetime drinkers who report ever getting alcohol from sources, your parents. I think this is confusing to children. There are also things about how did someone tell you you could use a prescription drug even though it's not your prescription? I mean, to me, this is 11 and 12-year-olds, I really object to it. And there are things that could be alarming or confusing to children. And then for them to say, oh, just let your teacher know if you're having a problem. I'm not sure if teachers are supposed to be in that role anyway of social worker, psychiatrist, trauma interventionist for this type of survey. I mean, teachers have enough of things that they need to do.
Any other comments about this or suggestions about how we move forward? I'm getting a lot of mixed signals from folks here in this discussion. Yes, Mark?
Well, just based on the discussion that we just had, that Mary just gave us, I think we need to vote on the survey. I think it's a responsibility for the board. So I certainly want to see them come back with whatever it is. And, you know, we're doing this to all of our students, and we vote on field trips to Sturbridge Village, which has less impact on some of these kids than this survey might. So I would agree that we need to vote on this survey.
Okay, do folks agree that they want to see another the next iteration of the survey? And is it the general feeling that we want to vote on it?
Question.
Yes.
Mark, when you mean vote on the survey, are we saying to give it to the students or to kind of dissect it and correct it? Because as we're not, social scientists, and these also comes from other sources. It's not like the Wyndham Pride just made this up. And by the way, many of us participate in those collaborative meetings with Wyndham Pride. So it is offered to multiple schools. So maybe, yes, at this time, it's going to be given, and maybe a presentation overall, and we have the opportunity to read it. But unless you have a license on alcohol and drug counseling or other in family therapy, I don't think most of us are equipped to decide upon that.
No, on that point, I would agree with you, Katina. I don't want to dissect it. I don't want to editorialize it or figure out which question should or should not be answered. I'd like to see the questionnaire, so I know what questions are being asked. I'd like to hear a rationale for why is there any benefit to asking these questions, and what are we going to get positive out of it, and then vote yes or no. I certainly don't want to be put in a position of judging the quality of the questions or getting editing those questions, because you're right, we don't have that background.
Me?
Ilda.
I think as a parent, realistically, and as obviously a former kid, we get into things. Well, I'm speaking in the kid sense. We get into things. Now, as far as telling the truth about it, did somebody give this to you? You don't want to get people in trouble. So are they going to be honest with us? Probably not, but I think it's still worth asking the tough questions, because this is how we're going to find out if these kids need help. And some of them might be honest enough, because this might be the only time they get to tell the truth.
Well, they are anonymous, so we won't know which kid answered which way. There's no way we'll know.
Yeah, that's true too, but
So I just want to put that out there, Ilda.
I think it's important though for us to know what the issues are. That way we could deal with them, and especially all the groups that they have at the school-based health center, they know, what topics to deal with.
So I'm picking up that people want to see the next iteration of the survey, and they'd like a chance to vote on it as a board, yes or no. The survey goes out. Does that make sense? Am I picking that up? Well, there could be a different board makeup after when all
Exactly.
this comes to us, but this board at least is saying that.
It's recommending that.
And the other thing I want to urge is that if you have specific suggestions, to communicate with Wyndham Pride. I saw them at the Parent Academy a few weekends ago, and one of the women from the group, and she was very interested in the feedback that I was giving, particularly around the issue that Mary raised about notifying parents in several different ways so that we have the best chance possible of making sure parents know that their child is getting the survey. But there may be other things like feedback, Mary, on the prompts, so on the proctor questions. But I want to encourage people to speak up now rather than wait. So we'll leave it at that. We're not going to take action on it tonight under the action items because we don't have the latest information. Okay, proposed board and committee meeting dates. I know some people had some thoughts on the board and committee meeting dates being proposed. We're not going to take action today because I don't think it's right for us to set the dates for next year until we have the board that is going to be serving next year in place. Because there may be some different schedule issues that we don't know about right now. But do people have any specific feedback on the meeting dates? Now, now's the time to speak up, not to wait till after we approve them. And then I know there were some issues with conflict. Brendan, go ahead.
Just one minor one, for the board retreats, October 19th can be difficult for me. Just due to the family obligations on that day usually. Other than that, I don't have any specific issues to discuss. Not to say October 19th is impossible.
Okay. I don't know. We had the retreat this year on my husband's birthday, and he didn't complain too much. Anybody else? Mary, you had brought up some issue around when the finance committee meets. Mark, you may have some opinion about that.
Yeah, I based on some feedback from Mary and others about the date, I did look at it. Unfortunately, we've changed the date I guess we switched the date of the board meeting so that it now matches it. But looking at the dates, the first Wednesday doesn't work for the Board of Finance or for the Finance Department because they can't get the information in time. The second Wednesday works, though it also cuts down on how many nights out a board has to go. If I move it to a different date, that just adds another night out for the board members. The third Wednesday conflicts with the curriculum, and the fourth Wednesday, in my opinion, would be too late in terms of the month. So I'm happy with leaving it at the second. The only other possibility I looked at was possibly a Monday. And again, as you say, we can wait till the new board assembles, but at this point, it looks like the second Wednesday is still the better date for the meeting.
Anybody else? Mary?
Well, I just wondered why one of the curriculum meetings is the March one is the 19th, not the 20th. Is the 20th? Yeah, it's a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday.
Is that the March dates, Holly, that you said were based on the district's arts festival? We finalized the dates just a week or two ago, so we actually tried to rework the March dates so that there wouldn't be a conflict.
If there's nothing that pops out at people, I would just encourage you to get back to Dr. Youngberg between now and when we take action on this in November, we have to act by the 1st of December, I believe, or early December. Okay, so we could technically even have a special meeting if we have to after Thanksgiving to approve them by Zoom or something like that if we can't resolve it on November 15th. But let's shoot for the 15th. Okay? Thank you, folks. And now we're on to the establishment of a Wyndham Medical Staff Scholarship for deserving high school students. Who's taking the lead on this?
I didn't notice it in my packet. Is there a summary from last time?
We don't have to take we don't have a vote on this evening.
Yeah, I have it
I'm
right now.
just
I found
asking who was taking the lead on it.
So this is just asking the board to allow us to establish the scholarship that's listed in the letter you have.
So do we need to take action on it? As an
I
action
believe that's
item?
how our scholarships are established with board approval.
Okay, so it's not on the item it's not on the agenda tonight as an action item?
So we can do it for next time.
Yeah, why don't we just do it for next time? Does anybody have any questions on this? Comment? Mark?
Can we just clarify who's going to be judging the scholarship? Will it be the traditional high school staff that does the rest of the other scholarships? I just want to make sure.
That's a great question. I believe it to be true, but let me just verify
Right.
before you're taking action.
Because I know through my experience with Dogs for Scholars, we do it anonymously, but this is an excellent scholarship, $2,000 for a year, but it's sort of important to know who's actually doing the qualifications.
Absolutely. Get you that information.
Mary?
The slide says Wyndham Hospital medical staff. It's not that, though, is it? And the letter says Wyndham medical staff. I'm just curious.
You know, I questioned the title of the scholarship also. I thought it was sort of misleading. Let me get these specifics. Unless you I was out when this whole thing came down. Did you speak directly to them, Holly? That makes a lot more sense.
Well, we should make sure the wording is correct on any wording that we put in the action item. Yeah.
I just read the letter, and I just wanted to point out that most of the scholarships are in the town accounts, so it does say high school bank, and I don't think that's where it should be. Yeah, it would have to go to the town.
Good catch.
Lynn?
Yes, Mark? Sorry.
One minor, only final concern I would have, if it's being funded through donations, I want to make sure that they're actually going to be able to collect the $4,000 a year. If we advertise a $2,000 a year scholarship, then someone's going to have to be responsible to come up with that much money. Again, I know through my experience with Dogs for Scholars, we don't advertise the money
Right,
amount
so
until
you know
we
you
actually
actually
get the
have
money.
it. Correct.
Because it's just not fair to the student.
I will follow up with them.
I will keep my mouth shut about Wyndham Hospital.
And the only final concern I have, and it really doesn't affect us, but with the new state law or whatever, or paying for community college for students, what we found out, again, through my experience, what we found out is if a student's going to community college and we give them $2,000, for the most part, that money goes to the state. Because if they get if they get the scholarship from the community college, any extra money they get, the state just takes. So it doesn't really benefit the student. So it becomes very complicated in terms of trying to give a community college student scholarship money to get it to. I know we wrestle with that because our bylaw says that the money has to go to the college. We can't give it directly to the student. So that's only other consideration is that, I think it's up to
Sounds
whoever
like there are a
does it.
number of little things we
Yeah.
need to work on to
It's
iron out the
just
details.
as long as they're aware that that's what happens to their money.
Katina, you look like you were going to say something.
Well, in that case, if it goes to a four-year college, we need to make very sure that that student has also been accepted or pre-accepted to go to the, for example, nursing program that Wyndham Hospital and Eastern are providing. That's an example of it. Thank you.
Okay, to be continued then. So we're now on to committee reports. Finance and audit. Mark?
Yeah, we met just before the board meeting. Did not have a dinner break, but that's all right. We reviewed the transfer report, reviewed the ESSER scholarship money, so we were aware where that was going. There was some concern was raised or questions raised about our potential special ed budget getting higher than what we have actually budgeted for, so we're going to follow up with a report as to how that is trending compared to last year. And we approved bringing to the board transfers of $281,451.
Any questions for Mark? Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Now, we have two board members who have started representing us at the school-based health center meetings, and they asked to give a report. I don't know who's kicking it off, Paula or Ilda.
Hello again. So the meeting was called to order, 8:05, very early. Members introduced themselves and stated what department or agency they represented. There was an update from the school-based. From now on, when I say SBHC, you'll know it's School-Based Health Center. Coordinator Lynn Weeks reviewed the program report with members. She stated that the staff of the HBHC truly takes advantage of their time with students, but is respected of teacher time as well. The Wyndham sites do not operate on a matrix or patient seen as our philosophy is that good physical and mental health care means that students are given the time necessary to meet their needs. There were updates from the staff. Amy Eaton, she's an APRN at Wyndham High School. She's now in her third year. She is also seeing a rise in anxiety and drug use to combat it. She will be coordinating with the health teacher to present topics to students. She also meets with the Young Parents Program to stay abreast of the students and their needs. Tamara Martinez, LCSW at Wyndham Middle School. She's in her 7th year. She was pleased to be able to assist with the summer clinic days and enjoyed meeting families. She has recently had a couple of students who were abusing melatonin and falling asleep in class. She said this was new. They've never seen this before. She is now planning her groups and believes that 2 topics will be social media and healthy relationships. She and Corey are visiting 6th grades, informing students about the health center and its services. Corey Halfhour, I think that's how you pronounce it, Halfhour, APRN at Wyndham Middle School and Barrows, is ramping up the flu immunizations at both Barrows and Wyndham Middle School. She is working with Tamara, visiting the 6th grade students. Last year, vaping was an issue at Wyndham Middle School. She will again address that topic with students. Stacy Jones, who's the LCSW at Barrows, Stacy is beginning her practice at Barrows and is already seeing 15 students. She will also be assembling some groups with topics geared toward middle school age. She has been meeting with groups of teachers as well. Carrie Franson at Wyndham High School. Carrie is still seeing so much trauma among the high school students. She is working with groups already on this topic and is pleased that some of the former students in her trauma group are joining to present group as role models. 2 of her students last year actually did their capstone project on mental health. She is in a new location in the high school, but once the students found her, all was well. There was an update from board members. Beth Marana from Planned Parenthood updated the board about a new virtual support site called Just Birth Space, Choices in Childbirth. In order to access it, one must be a patient of Planned Parenthood. But it is serving the community well. Both of our APRNs, but particularly Amy at Wyndham High School, rely on Planned Parenthood for continued care of some of their students. The end.
Thank you, Ilda. Is there anything you want to add, Paula?
Yeah, just that the couple of days before school started, I guess the Barrows School-Based Health Center was very busy. They were able to bring in students from all schools for immunizations or physicals. They worked most closely. Their priorities were students in elementary schools that needed their updates because once school starts, students are not able to access school-based health centers that they are not involved in those schools, which will be different when North Wyndham completes theirs because that is grant funded, it's not state funded. So our elementary students will be able to take advantage of services there. So I thought that was pretty incredible. But the staff there at Barrows really had their hands full and did quite a job.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you both doing that work, and we look forward to hearing more. Well, listen, you
Come on,
volunteered
Ilda, you
for it,
can do
Ilda, so no complaints. No complaints, you volunteered for it. Okay, we're now on to action items. I'll entertain a motion to vote on the logo design for the Wyndham Phoenix Academy. Motion made by Brendan,
Second.
seconded by Ilda. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. And then I'll entertain a vote on the budget transfers, which were recommended to us by the Finance Committee for $281,451.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mark, seconded by Katina. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, motion is unanimously passed. And now I'll entertain a motion for us to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing the contractual grievance filed by CSEA related to an employee's performance.
So moved.
The motion's been made by Mark, seconded by Katina. All those in favor? All those in favor? Mark and Paula, all those in favor? Okay, so we'll go into executive session. Sorry, we're going to miss you, Brendan. We'll talk after the meeting. Thank you. So we're going to go into another room for this.
Okay, we're coming back into, reconvening into public session at 9:46. And, there's a motion regarding the disposition of the grievance. Mark?
I make a motion, the board hereby determines that there was just cause to terminate an employee who was the subject of the grievance hearing. And the grievance was up, and the grievance was upheld.
Mark has put a motion on the table. Is there a second to that? I need somebody to second it. Seconded by Paula. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to uphold the just cause termination, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, the motion carries. I'll entertain a motion. Actually, still on the agenda, we have public comment. Is there anybody who would like to speak during public comment? Nobody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:47. Brendan's not here, somebody else will say. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.